Hey everyone, I'm Dragon Rider, Queen of Cards. It's time to talk about some neutrals. That's right, we are deeper a little bit into the neutral part of the card reveals for Whizbang's Workshop. There were quite a few neutrals that were just revealed on the Hearthstone subreddit. So let's take a look at these, and I'll have that linked below if you want to go and help support the actual social account of the Hearthstone Reddit. So check out that as well. But let's jump into these cards. The first one here, Workshop Janitor. It's a 5-mana 5/5 battle cry. If you control a location, draw 2 cards. I think some decks actually do want to play this. Like, card draw is pretty decent. Getting to just get 2 card draw and a body on the board is not bad at all. You do have to have the requirement of a location, but again, depending on the decks, there are some decks that are running the locations, so this might be okay. But it's like a fine card in certain situations. It's not going to go into every single deck. The next one here is Cosplay Contestant. It's a 3-mana 3/4. After your opponent plays a minion, transform into a 3/4 copy of it. I guess if there's like death rattles or something that's generated from the card, like at the end of the turn or something like that, those effects are probably going to be the ones that you would want to hit with this in standard. But I don't know otherwise if this is a card that is going to be like great in standard constructed decks. The next one we have is very definitely a throwback for those of us like from the 90s, 80s and 90s. Yeah, Bucket of Soldiers. I remember the little plastic bins of little plastic toys like this. But yeah, Bucket of Soldiers. Here we go. 3-mana 0/2. Death Rattle. Summon 5 1/1 soldiers with random bonus effects. So there are 8 of these soldiers that are possible, and they have the bonus effects of Divine Shield, Taunt, Rush, Wind Fury, Stealth, Poisonous, Lifesteal, Reborn. Just like we have seen with all of the past things that have these like minions with the bonus effects. They are all 8 different colors, trying to kind of keep with the theme that Hearthstone has done the last few times with this of color coding, I guess, the kind of coloring these in the same ways or in the way that represents what ability it is that exact minion has. So these are all 1-mana 1/1s that have that single effect. I feel like the cards that we've seen that are like this haven't really gotten a lot of play in standard, at least not in like the top competitive type decks. There's been a few here and there, but generally these are kind of used in combination with something else. They might fit in when it's actually trying to take advantage of a big board buff or something like the Paladin Aura that can add additional attack for minions when they attack and trying to capitalize on having that bigger board. Those are kind of the decks and situations where I see something like this potentially being used. The downside is that this does have 0 attack, so you'll have to buff it or somehow deal damage to your board or do something else so that your opponent actually will want to kill this off, or have some way to trigger the death rattle or kill it off yourself, which does make it seem a little bit more difficult to actually kind of pull that off and get these. For right now, I feel like this is like maybe a kind of rarity of a card that's going to be used in more competitive standard decks. This is probably something that's going to be squeezed into like one deck maybe that's like a more aggro board focused deck. The next one we have is Messmaker. This is a 3-mana 1/3 with Lifesteal and Taunt, and Death Rattle. Deal 1 damage to all enemies. I feel like this art is like a like a wood nymph version of a treasure goblin from Diablo, especially like Diablo 3 Diablo 4 maybe. So like, I don't know, that's what I think of with this art. It's fantastic. But then we look at, okay, this is, I feel like every card now that has 1 health or 1 attack, we have to at least look at the potential with Jepetto I don't know if that scares me a lot or not, but Messmaker with Jepetto could be a thing, I suppose. But this has taunt, so it's going to have to be attacked into, which gives lifesteal, and the death rattle going off also grants the owner that lifesteal effect. And it says all enemies, so it also will hit the opposing enemy's face, not just minions. So honestly, I kind of like this tool. I actually think this is a really cool tool for potentially like mid-game play for certain decks. This could be a control card that people slot in, somehow buff it up. Again, get to like replay it with Jepetto because it is that base one attack. I don't know. I think this is a really cool card and could probably be used in a couple different ways. So I would not be surprised if we see this somewhere. And yeah, especially depending on the meta too. If the meta is a lot more like aggressive aggro style decks that have a lot of like little minions on the other side of the board, minis, that kind of thing. This definitely can do a lot of work. The next one we have is Pluck Paintfin. This is a 3-mana 2/3 Murloc with Poisonous and Battlecry, draw a Rush minion. Okay, it's very specific, drawing a Rush minion. It having Poisonous itself and drawing a specific thing, plus okay stats, honestly seems pretty solid. I think this is like an okay card. Again, without knowing any of the class cards yet, it's a little bit difficult to say if there's like a style of deck that this maybe fits into or a certain class that this might really fit into. So we'll see what else is revealed, but just on its own, this seems decent. Next up, we have Caricature Artist. It is a 4-mana 3/4 Battlecry, draw a minion that costs 5 or more. Give it a funny mustache. Okay. The giving it a funny mustache thing is like totally irrelevant for how the card works, but it is funny. But the playing something potentially on curve on 4 and drawing something that costs 5 or more, we have seen that effect before a few times, especially like in Druid and with wanting to pull certain things, depending on the way decks are built. So I actually think this one is probably a pretty solid card, especially in the like early 4 set metas where you really might want to actually be looking for very specific things. Maybe then later in the like 6 set metas where you're really kind of coming up with those very like refined decks, but we'll see. I like the card overall. I think it is really neat. And I like drawing very specific things, like that kind of tutor effect is typically really good. So I think this is great. Next, we have Giftwrapped Whelp. I love this card. The artwork is so freaking cute. I love these like whelps and the dragons. So, oh my gosh, this is adorable. But it is a 1-mana 2/1 dragon. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, give it and this minion +1/+1. Really solid, honestly. If you're playing dragon stuff, you get 2 buffs, and for only 1 mana, plus, again, things with 1 health or 1 attack, base stats. We got to talk about its potential with Jepetto, and this could be something that maybe you want to play with Jepetto as well. So this seems cool. I don't know. I like this. I think it's just like a really good tool, probably in a couple different style decks, whether it's a more aggressive deck, whether it's a dragon focused deck. I don't know. I like it. And the artwork is super cute. Then we have Scarab Keychain. It is a 1-mana 1/1 beast with Battlecry, discover a 2-cost card. So it being a 2-cost card, you could discover a minion or a spell, either way, but I mean, a 1-mana 1/1 that you discover a 2-cost thing to help fill in your curve or discover some other potential tool that you might need in specific matchups. Again, this works with Jepetto. Like, I don't know. This seems like an actually pretty decent card, especially in the 4-set meta. And then we have another super cute artwork. I love this little guy. We have Tar Slime. It is a 1-mana 0/3 elemental with taunt, and has +2 attack during your opponent's turn. Okay, so this is definitely kind of a throwback to Tar Creeper, which was a little bit higher stats, but also had the same effect. It had taunt, it had the base stats, and then added attack during the opponent's turn. It was definitely, the Tar Creeper was popular when it was initially introduced, and for a while it was around, it did come back into the core set, but really didn't see quite as much play. So I'm not sure if this Tar slime will kind of fit into any constructed standard decks. So maybe there are some sort of aggro decks that might want to slot this in. An elemental deck, just because it's a cheap elemental. Maybe there is potential for that, but otherwise I think this is just kind of a fun throwback card that's probably not going to be quite as great as its predecessor Tar Creeper was in its glory days. Those are the cards that were revealed on the Hearthstone subreddit. So I think they're not bad. A few of them, maybe not super great for standard. But what do you think? Let me know in those comments below. Thank you so much for checking this out. Don't forget to check out the whole playlist of all of my thoughts on the Whiz Bang Workshop cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.